call this special quorum court meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to continue working on items pertaining to the 2016 budget process. The prayer and the pledge is going to be handled by J.P. Gary McHenry.
Let's pray. Our Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together tonight and to consider the county's business. Lord, we pray for your wisdom on this time together. We pray for your oversight, that the people of this county may benefit from the decisions that are made this night. We ask all these things in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah. Daniel Balls. Here. Harvey Bowman. Here. Rick Cochran. Here. Robert Dennis. Here. Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Here. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Here.
Eva Madison. Here. Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Here. Gary McHenry. Here. Joe Patterson. Here. Butch Pond. Here. Bill Ussery. Here.
You have the agenda in front of you. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda's adopted. We're going to go right into reviews of the 2016 budget request. First on our agenda is Angela, which is going to be animal shelter. Come forward. And George is going to pull up a chair and he'll be sitting with you there. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. Angela, you're recognized.
Okay. I assume everyone's had a chance to take a look at what I've am requesting. Do you want to ask questions, or would you like for me to just give you an overview?
Let's just open for questions. Let's just open for questions. J.P. Madison.
I don't actually have a question. I think we've been through the hard parts of your budget already. And so I was prepared to make a motion to pass it, except for I'm just having pause over the capital item request. And I think I just don't want to start down the path of JP's doing business with the county. It just it makes me feel awkward. And I think it's just an issue I'd rather not deal with.
Okay.
So I hope that doesn't damage your budget too much. But I would make a motion to pass the animal shelters budget minus the proposed capital outlay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have any discussion? J.P. Cochran.
The merit of the water-based cleaning solution is there, it seems, from the reading that I've had. I do believe that there's not just one source that you can buy this. So from the standpoint of doing business with the JP, that's one thing, but being able to acquire this equipment, can you get this equipment for the same price in another location?
For the same price, yes.
Okay.
As I understand it.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm not going to tell you, I haven't done just a lot of research about comparable products either. This was just a product that was, introduced to me. And like I said in the last meeting, I felt like it had some merit. What we've been able to determine is that it is a bleach producing machine. So it may very well be that there's another machine out there that's maybe a little more economical even. So
I discovered there are other machines out there.
George, take the mic, please.
There are other what we call electrolyzed water machines, and I think they're probably cheaper, but we don't have anybody here that I've been able to determine right now who sells them and has boots on the ground, so to speak.
I understand. It's not new technology, but it is here.
Right.
And, we have the same thing with endless hot water. They've been doing that for 30 years in Europe and Japan. We're just getting into it. So I will support the motion as it is, but I will also support you if you come back and say, I found a good vendor. I'm looking at this product and it will save me some money. So I would support you in the future for a recall to come back and say,
Great.
let's do this. Thank you, Judge.
Any other discussion?
Judge.
I'm sorry, J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Judge.
I wrote his name down.
Couple of questions for you. I know when I was out and talked to you, and I appreciate your laying all that out. That was very helpful. One of the things you mentioned on the extra personnel was that you were going to free up your time to be able to go out and generate some revenue outside of county revenue streams. Do you have a pretty good feel for what you think an average year's worth of additional revenue generated from doing it? And by the way, I really appreciate that kind of proactive approach, because I think that's the kind of thing that brings a lot of synergy and I think solves a lot of issues and a lot of angst. So I'm very much for that concept. I'm just wondering if you have a good estimate as to how many, just a ballpark figure, what you hope to generate in either grants or additional donations and revenue from having that free time at your position by putting those part-time people at the front desk.
Well, the first part of the year, a lot of grant opportunities are going to come up. This time of the year, they're hard to find because the money has been allocated
Sure.
already. What I can tell you is since the budget issues that I have faced, I've been able to secure a Zaxby's fundraiser. We have received a $500 donation for a Coranda bed wish list that I signed up for. The Animal League is going to sponsor a fundraiser for us in October, which should be very good. We received a $1,000 donation from another nonprofit here locally, about a $1,200 product donation from another 501c3 nonprofit here locally. Of course, as I said in the last meeting, I got with Walmart, and they are going to give us, with food purchases, stuff like that, $200 to $300 a month. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity. It's hard for me to commit to a dollar figure because you just don't know. I can tell you that in 2014, I secured $26,000 and $8,000. So in grants. So the money's there. It's just a matter of having the time to find them, apply for them, and then, doing what it takes to get them. So I really believe that this is a really good move. And I will try to apply for everything. In addition to the $550 HSO grant, things like that. So I really think that this is a good move. And I'm committed to finding the money.
Well, it sounds like if you found $34,000 when you were just kind of doing this when you could fit it in, that having the free time that the extra help would make available to you. And again, I commend you for that. I think that's the kind of leadership and the kind of innovation that I think we all benefit from. So I really appreciate you doing that. But it sounds like finding $40,000 in grants is not an unrealistic.
It's not an unrealistic goal. No,
Okay.
It's not.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And by the way, Primrose is doing good.
Well, great. Thank you.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. Angela, in looking at the budget here, it looks like that over 75% of your total budget out there is in labor. And I know it sounds like you're doing some really great things there to raise some funds. And I guess I was a little bit surprised that the food costs and so forth wasn't a bigger percentage than what it is. But I think that is an area that we need to look at to try to figure out how we might figure out how to save some labor. And I don't know if it's operating hours or I don't have a clue. You're the expert out there. But I think if you can go ahead and look at some possible choices to help limit labor requirements, that's probably going to be the source of the biggest potential savings that we're going to come up with. So I know we talked about that some before. Any ideas at all? I know we talked about possibly having half days open a couple of days a week to help with that. And I don't know whether you think that's a feasible possibility or not, but I'd sure like to see you do some consideration of that.
Well, I've put some figures together, and we are helping roughly 4,000 people in a month. So, 1,200 people or excuse me, 100 people a day, 100 plus people a day, 120 people a day. If you shorten your hours, you shorten the people coming in, which shortens your adoptions, which means longer length of stay. I think what you're going to see is if you start cutting hours and you start not being open to the public and available to the public as much, I'm afraid what you're going to see is your costs are actually going to go up. I'm not going to tell you that we can't try anything, and we're certainly open for that, but we're open 6 days a week as it is. Saturday is a huge day, but so is Monday. You know, I don't honestly know without doing a complete study as to what we could cut or how we could cut.
Okay. Well, I realizing that that's such a large percentage of your total costs.
Sure.
That would seem to me to be the appropriate place to look for any possible savings. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other discussion? We have a motion. We have a second. Carla, will you call the roll?
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom?
No.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
No.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon, no, oops, sorry, I did that already.
Okay, that did pass, so thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you.
You did good. You can go home.
The next thing we have is part of the road, Sean. I don't know if y'all have got the page, that'll be in your budget, book 165 to 166. You may already have that, so. Okay, 165, when I will, I'll be glad to tell you. Sean?
I guess open it up for questions, same as Angela, if that's.
Okay. JP Madison? Okay, okay.
I'm curious, sort of background information for me, but what's the head count? What are the number of employees you all have at the road department right now?
Approximately 80. I think
80.
right now we're a little over 80.
And how many how many positions do you have, so to account for like unfilled positions?
That are currently unfilled?
Yes.
I think right now we have, and this is off the top of my head, I can think of at least 6. There may be a few more. I know there's the 2 HEO 1s that I asked for the other day to move up to HEO 2.
That would just be a change, not additional positions, right?
Right,
Okay.
but those 2 open, whichever way they go, but those 2 would be open. I think we have 2 HEO 2 positions open due to a couple of people recently quitting, the bridge supervisor and the bridge lead man, and that's all I can think of, but
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Do you have any sense, and it might be, I don't know, for Mr. Coleman's frame of reference or your frame of reference going back as far as you can to sort of have an idea of how the head count has changed in your time or Mr. Coleman's time at the road department?
Do you mean number-wise? Or
Yeah, I mean, do you have a sense, are you growing, are you shrinking, are you staying flat? I know that when we've talked about the sheriff's budget, one of the things he's talked about is he's remained relatively flat in terms of head count. And since you're one of our bigger departments, I'm curious about that.
Since I have been there, which has been since 2006 in the road department, it has been about the same level.
Okay.
I know there was some trainee positions that were on the budget at one time. I think early or right before I switched, they had like a trainee program, but those have been taken off.
Okay. Because one of the issues I'm struggling with, and you weren't here, I think, the night that I passed out some information on the county's, the shift in the population, and I've been trying to do some research, don't have the results yet on sort of what the changes are in the geography of the county that we take care of. I think like 10% of the county or something is underwater. There's in terms of the lakes. And then you've got the cities and then sort of what's left over that's our responsibility. And I've been trying to figure out how that's changing because over time it seems like the road department's responsibilities are shrinking just by sheer the cities are annexing our roads and bridges. And I understand that sometimes they annex the nicer ones that we've just finished working on. But at some point, I think we're going to have to accept the fact that the road department's responsibilities, I mean, in some way we can be grateful for it, are shrinking. And I just wonder how we're responding to that, sort of on a departmental level, on an expenditure level, to sort of say, hey, reality check from back at the time the 1 cent sales tax came in the early 80s, this is how much our responsibility has changed. Do you have any sense, I know you can't go back to the 80s, but do you have any sense of what has changed in terms of mileage, the miles of roads that we're responsible for, how that's changed?
Well, I don't have a number compared to, early 80s versus today, but I think one thing there's several things to consider, but one thing that I mentioned for several years is the costs. Chip seal oil has, since when I started in 2006, it was less than $1 a gallon. Well, last year it was up over $2. This year we got a little break and it's $1.75 currently. But there's just so many things. Costs have grown.
It's certainly costs have increased since the 80s. I don't dispute that at all.
Right.
Just at some point I'm thinking you're doing less work. Could there be fewer people? Could there be there could be less supplies. They may be more expensive, and so it may be flat in terms of costs. But so speaking of chip seal, I wanted to ask you, someone contacted me to say that you all had some problems with getting the chips to adhere, and that some supplies had been essentially dumped because of that. Do you know anything about this?
There was some issues with the chips being too dusty recently. I mean, I can talk to you that, separately, or if you want to talk about it now, Judge.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how. Is what we're spending money on truly being used for roads? And that was one concern I had.
What happened is some of those, I don't think anything's been dumped to my knowledge. Maybe Mr. Coleman can answer that. But some of the chips, they were just dustier than they should have been, so we made adjustments. Even those dusty chips, that's also what we use for our snow removal. So those can go right to our buildings for our snow removal. So, nothing wasted, anything like that.
Well, except for the ones that went off the road. Because I understood there was a problem adhering, so that once they were laid, they sort of were being kicked off almost immediately by vehicles.
Yeah, more than they should have been probably, but
okay.
You still, you have your asphalt layer, which seals the cracks, and adds some, a layer to that existing roadway, and then you do still have your chips.
So one last topic I wanted to ask you about. I missed the road tour because I teach class on Mondays, and so I missed it. And I understand some information was shared as part of the Smoky Bear tour about the lake or the pond or whatever it is that's being installed out there on private property. And I wondered, do you all have any way of tracking the projects that you do on private property? Do you have any sense of that? Because I hear things like that, but sometimes I wonder, are they rumors? Is there truth to them? And I think that one ended up being, yes, there was work being done on private property.
Yeah, there over the years, well before me, I know Charles Johnson, Jerry Hunton. What it is there's dirt needed for projects like Smoky Bear. Well, if that dirt's available close by, it only makes sense to haul close, short haul, versus hauling from our closest red dirt pit would have been County Road 97, which I kind of did some math, and it was 23 miles one way, so 46 miles round trip average versus, maybe a mile average hauling from that site. Well, when we get dirt on a site like that on private property, we just can't dig a hole and leave it. So a lot of times that is what the homeowners or the owners ask for is, well, can you make that into a pond? We're digging a hole there. Or if it's a slope, we can't just drive off and leave a straight slope off. Mm-hmm. So, we may have to bring in a little more dirt or just know that we're going to have to put that back to a certain slope and do that once the project's done.
We're required by law to remediate anyway.
Sure. Now,
Yes.
OSHA, probably other things obligate us to fix things. But I'm curious, though, when you decide to do a project like that, how do you make sure that what the county's getting in exchange for what we're putting out are equivalent, because it's hard to anticipate how long it will take, how many employees it will take. And that's what I'm unsure about. It seems like if we've got all these roads that need work on it, wouldn't we be better off paying for dirt and not expending our time
versus free dirt.
doing work
this-
on private property?
This person didn't charge us for the dirt.
No. Would we be better off like paying somebody for dirt rather than doing a barter?
Sean, how many loads of dirt did you haul out of there?
Oh, it was almost, I think 900 is what we
Of
did.
loads.
I mean, hauling 900 loads of dirt that are free, the homeowner's not charging us within a mile of the project versus free dirt 46 miles round trip. I mean, I guess maybe I'm not understanding your question.
Well, and I guess, I mean, I understand that 900 loads of dirt or pounds or whatever is expensive,
It's
but
loads.
how do we decide that it took 900 loads of dirt on Smoky Bear?
That's what our haulers turned in with their paperwork.
How many people live on Smoky Bear Road?
I don't know.
Wow. Well, I guess what I'm asking is, how do we decide that 900 loads of dirt is worth what the time and the expense that we're putting into private property? How do we decide that's equal and that's a good deal for the taxpayers?
Well, I think
Here,
Here, wait, come to the microphone.
pull up a chair, Donnie.
the budget. What's this have to do with the budget?
If I may, that's $24,840 in fuel costs saved.
Yeah, I kind of figured. I think I handed that out at the.
Pull the mic over, Donnie.
For one thing, on that job, we just used 2 of our dump trucks there to haul that almost 1,000 loads. That let us take the other 9 trucks over to like the west side and start working on other roads with those. If we were used our dump trucks to haul all that dirt from 97 pit, we would probably still be hauling and not working on any other roads the whole time we done Smoky Bear. So if you weigh up the odds of using 2 dump trucks to do the whole road and you use the rest of your fleet going other roads to work on, plus the savings you save on fuel, I mean.
So how did you all decide who to ask for their dirt? Because if I lived on Smoky Bear and my neighbor was the one that benefited and I didn't have an opportunity, I might be kind of ticked off at the county that this guy just looks like he got a free lake out of the deal. How do you decide who gets the benefit of this process?
Well, whenever people come in and talk to us and we go out and talk to everybody and usually somebody will say, hey, I'll furnish the dirt if you'll do this road.
I need
A lot of it
to
is.
step in here because the questions you're asking now is not budget questions.
They are, because we're talking about personnel costs and supply costs and equipment costs that are being used on private property, and I think that's valid for whether this budget is a proper request. So,
I mean, if you would rather us pay for the dirt, you give us the money and I'll haul it from anywhere you want to. If you'd rather pay for the dirt, that's fine with me.
well,
I mean,
I'm just trying to make
trying
sure that we're getting what we're paying for, because it does cost the county to do work on private property, and so I don't know how often it happens. Is there?
I've worked here for 19 years, and it's every judge before it's the same way. But if you'd rather us not do that, you just give me the word, and that's the way it'll be.
Is there ever an occasion where a citizen pays us to do work, like there's a payment?
No.
As opposed to, I don't know. I'm just
No.
asking.
No.
Because it's always a barter.
I've been here 19 years. I never know of anybody accepting any money for doing work.
No. I'm not suggesting that a person accepted money. I'm suggesting does the county. Don't get me wrong.
I've never known of anybody paying the county for anything.
Okay.
That
But
would be getting.
I can
Donnie,
bring you names.
Just a minute. That
Well,
would be
I'd like to speak a little bit here too. 'cause
Go ahead.
We're
Go-
getting hammered on some stuff here that's crazy.
Go ahead.
I can take you out on county roads and I can get lots of people that will tell you they'll donate the dirt if you'll work on their road. It's all over the county. We have them call us every day. So, I mean, it looks to me like if somebody's willing to donate the dirt and you go out there and dig a hole on a person's property, they ask you to make it a pond, what we tell them is, And I told this same gentleman the same thing. We can dig a hole, but I can't promise you that'll hold water. If it holds water, you win. If it doesn't, you got a hole that won't hold water. And I mean, that may not be right. I don't know.
Well,
But I'm trying to save the money to build the roads with. And whenever I can do a road that's over a mile long, over 900 loads of dirt with 2 trucks, and then I take 9 trucks and go over here on the other side of the county and haul dirt to build another road, kind of seems to me like we're doing the right thing. But after I listen to y'all, it kind of seems like we don't know what the hell we're doing. Excuse my language.
well, something you said made me think about. So does the road department have an agenda in terms of, this is what's on our list for 2016 in terms of roads we want to do, or is it dependent on who calls and asks us?
We have a list of roads that, from years back, of different people that's come in and talked to us, and they just get put on the list, and we try to do what we can when we can.
Well, when somebody calls to say, hey, I'll give you dirt and come do my road, what kind of assessment do we make to say,
we look
we
at where the
appreciate-
road is. We look for connectivity. I'm not going to tell you that over the 19 years that I've worked here, that I've not done a dead-end road. I have. That comes back to somebody giving all the dirt, you being able to take 1 or 2 trucks out there and do it.
well, what I was going to ask, though, the rest of the question was, what kind of assessment do we make that is in line with the priorities of the road department, that it's free dirt's great, but the free dirt may be on a road that we think is not in need of anything, or 2 people live on it, and, what kind of assessment do we make? How do we put that in with our priorities?
Free dirt in and of itself wouldn't cause us to go pay road.
Hey, George, get the mic.
Connectivity, amount of traffic, so on and so forth.
If you can get the
feasibility.
right-of-ways.
I mean, there are a lot of things they have to consider. I mean, for instance, I had somebody come by to see me the other day, lives here in Fayetteville, owns some property out in the county, use it just for recreational purposes, and that's not unusual to have someone that lives here in town that owns some property out in the county, and wanted us to see about upgrading it. Well, I told him, I said, well, I talked to Tony and Shaw about where it was and how many people lived on it. Connectivity is probably not something that's on would not be a priority item for us. But I said, first of all, we have to get, we know that we're going to be able to get the right of way. So I sent him the documentation to get that. But even if somebody wants to go ahead and go to the trouble to get everybody to sign up and say, yeah, we'll give right of way, we still got to assess it at the times in terms of amount of people that live on it, the amount of traffic it carries, connectivity with other roads, a vast number of things. Somebody giving dirt in a project definitely helps. Now, I think Smoky Bear was being widened because the school bus was having trouble getting down there. Is that right?
That was some of the concerns.
Right.
That was-
Yeah. I don't know. Did we know, I mean, when we decided to do the project, did we already know that somebody was going to give us dirt, or is that something we find out after the fact?
After we went to talking to him, this guy stepped up and said, if you'll do the road, I'll give you the dirt. And I know that I was told whenever we took the road tour that one of the JPs was told there wasn't even a bus that travels that road. But there's 2 people that lives at the end of the road wanted us to build a turnaround so the bus could turn on their property and come back out on the road. But we didn't do that because there's a residential drive at the end of the road and the bus can pull right up in that residential drive and back out.
I don't know about the school
There's
buses.
2 buses that travel that road twice a day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, J.P. Harbison.
I'm going to comment on it, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go on and make a motion that we pass this budget. Concerns on particular roads and things, I don't think need to be discussed during the budget process, even though this money coming out, that's money spent, this is for next year, and you may want to do better assessment on the number of loads you're taking out and how much time. We have to go back, if we take the dirt out, we have to go back and restore it anyway to the EPA standards. So, to me, it's a good deal. Anyway, I think your budget's in line. I move to pass the road budget for 2016.
I'll second it as soon as I make a comment.
Well, I've got several people that I'm going to recognize, yes.
Well, 106,740 is what I came up just quickly, and so I second it, was the savings that you did on that deal. Saved the county 106,740 in fuel, labor, and red dirt, and I'm pretty simple.
I want to go ahead and recognize everyone, but I want to make a statement. First of all, we don't sell to anybody gravel or anything else because that is competing with private industry. I had some problems when I first came in because some of the previous county judges had sold gravel. I stopped that. I don't sell anything to anybody because that is illegal. That's something a statement that I want to make. So there's nobody gets in, no money exchanged for this type of stuff. Okay, the next we have J.P. Lundstrom.
I've looked the budget over carefully, and I see a few little increases, and I see several nice decreases. I notice the budget for this year is about $1 million below what it was in 2013, according to my bottom line here. So it's obvious that you're working at trying to keep it as level as you can. We know that fuel prices fluctuate dramatically. But here's what I want to say. I agree with J.P. Madison on the fact that every time a city gets bigger, a county gets littler. But what I would like to do is see us take these $7 million we're spending and just do a better job on the roads we do have than what we used to do. We've been spending this money every year for a number of years. You go out there on County Road 42, we just got through doing a lot of work on that road, chipped and sealed it, and there's several big patches of it already gone. And they're being fixed, but they're gone. If we could have blacktopped that, which would have been a whole lot more expensive, that road would still be there. So that's what I would like to see us do, is do a higher quality job on the roads we have left so we spend less money on maintenance and ongoing work on these roads as time goes by. I think by doing that, this number would reduce significantly over the years because you just wouldn't need that much labor and so forth to take care of them. These roads, the way they are now, are very expensive to take care of. If you don't do anything but grade the things, it's a high-priced issue. So I'm going to support this budget as it is, and I appreciate the work you guys do. I would like to see you take that big hump out of Haberton Road, but that's one of the issues right there now. See, Sean and I have talked about that road. I have to drive out there every Sunday and Wednesday to church. It's in Joe Patterson's district. I think he should be complaining about it. But anyway,
Yes.
they've reacted and fixed that road. But there's water or a spring or something in that hillside. And they come out even after the chip and steel wouldn't stay, they came and blacktopped it. And still there's a large hump is raised up and a big dip on the other side, which is going to kill a motorcyclist one of these days. Somebody's going to hit that and get hurt. But anyway.
Donnie, you want to be
go
recognized?
ahead, Donnie.
Pull the mic to you.
I agree with you. And we built that road. And before we ever chip sealed it, we went back and dug that spot out. And we let it set another 2 months. And we had to dig it out again. And we went back and dug it all the way down and went 6 foot down into the old road base. And we filled that plumb full of boulders and brought it back up and let it set for about 3 months. And I thought, boy, we fixed it. We chip sealed it and it crumbled in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I talked to you right out here under the parking deck. And we went back out and we dug it out again and we set the base back up again and we laid asphalt and now there's a big hump coming up. Yeah. Always before it went down, now it's coming up.
Yeah, that hump concerns.
I would like to say too, I agree with you when you said you agree with J.P. Madison. I do agree with you that the cities are annexing roads and taking in roads, but they'll annex in up to the shoulder of the road. Or they'll annex in just to the bridge. Who does that leave that shoulder the road and the bridge to, and leaves it to us. But even with them annexing in mileage, we still work on another road bringing up that we're using the same crew to still do another mile of road. So it's kind of hard to, unless you're going to just, to trim down hands, it's just hard to do that and keep doing what we're doing.
That's what I was talking about. This stuff just keeps cropping up on some of these roads because we can't do an adequate job to begin with.
But if you'll look all over the Washington County, and not just Washington County, but the state of Arkansas, and you get out and drive some of these roads, a motorcycle will get killed on it too because they got the same problems. And I'm going to tell you, I ride a motorcycle, and I ride one every day.
So
I rode one here tonight. And I can tell you where every bump is in Washington County because I ride those roads and look at them to try to take care of those spots, but there's just sometimes you can't do nothing.
Well, that's where a lot of bikers like to go, are on the back roads. They
Exactly.
Don't like
That's
to
where
ride the major highways.
Exactly.
And
I know you ride one too.
yeah, but I put 3 wheels on mine because I'm getting old. Thank you, ma'am. Judge.
J.P. Pond.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a little bit, because I went on that road tour, and we went out to Smoky Bear, and just from what I saw, I didn't wait for anybody to tell me. They told me what I saw it before they told me. Well, they did explain to me, there's a man here offered to give us the field dirt right here on the spot, on the scene. And it costs a lot of money to transport those materials. Now, what I saw was where the county, there's a man there, he wanted a better road. Like to see the school buses be able to pass. There's 2 buses, one coming from one way and one the other. He wanted a better road for his community, his neighborhood. He said, I'm going to give you the dirt. J.P. Dennis gave you some kind of an idea of how much fuel and time and man hours that saved the county. And it's already been said, you cannot just go dig a hole and take the man's dirt and not do any reclamation work. We'd have the ADEQ in here talking to us about that. You're either going to have to grade that out or put up a bank where the man can have a pond. I would imagine the pond was cheaper than trying to grade it out with the amount of boulders that was in the bottom of that. I take issue with the word bartering that was mentioned 2 or 3 different times. Now, that might be all right if I was a lawyer in a court of law, but this is not a court of law, and I get a little tired of our county employees being trashed and smeared with special little words.
Hang on, Butch. Let's keep it civil.
This is getting in the way of us having efficient government process. It bothers me to see county employees sit here and be bullied by elected officials. It's indecent.
I know. Point of order. Thank you. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Members, it should be obvious to all of us that the road department, certainly last year, had considerable slack in their budget. We tore down parts of 2 nearly completed bridges that they remediated without asking us for additional appropriation. That, to me, indicates some slack in a budget. When you add to that we have a dead-end road with not a huge number of families living on it, that with some controversy was widened. Now, I have a long-time acquaintance on that road who is very unhappy I have a new person that was recently introduced to me that is unhappy with that. And this rumor keeps coming up over and over again that it was done to accommodate school buses. One side of the road is Elkins, the other side of the road is Greenland. I called Elkins. They never send a bus down that road. They have children, if they are to be picked up, to pick up out on the blacktop. That was the bus superintendent. I talked to Greenland. The Greenland superintendent said, yes, they picked up on that road, but they'd never, ever had any trouble turning around, never had any trouble navigating the road. So I don't know why this school bus issue was even brought to bear. The analysis that Sean did, that he gave us at the road tour, was the cost of fuel from the county pit versus the cost from the on-site pit. The cost of fuel from the county pit was $18,933.60. From on-site was $493.92. That's the only analysis that was done. And I would like to ask that a more thorough comparison be done of the expense of on-site dirt versus county road department dirt. If we had hauled from the county road pit, would we have had to do a similar amount of land reclamation and grading and hydroseeding and
No,
that?
we're doing that one as we go. It's there. We do have to keep up with it, but there we have more area and are able to plan and keep that grading as we go.
So your remediation, or whether we call it reclamation expenses, would not have been as great. I want members to consider also that there was a lot of county equipment tied up at that site. Neighbors have told me that days and days have been spent with numerous county vehicles, equipment, working on grading, hydroseeding, fixing the bank. Have we counted depreciation on our vehicles? Have we counted them being tied up from other projects? Mr. Coleman pointed out that using that available local dirt freed up dirt dump trucks to be used elsewhere. Where else could our backhoe and bulldozer and hydroseeder, or I'm not an expert on equipment, although my grandson is teaching me, but I'm not sure what all was there that day. But that equipment was tied up at that site for some time. And I think if we're going to compare, we need to have a proper analysis done of the county's expense. And when there are some people disgruntled with it and unhappy with the results, that has to be weighed against the real need for that road to be widened to begin with. I don't know how many children are picked up on that road, but there's not a school bus problem from talking to the school bus superintendents. So I think it is important to look at this issue as we consider the road department budget. Because, and you know, the way that we've always done it is not good enough for me. And I respect that the judge has made certain improvements in the road department, like not having people buy gravel or whatever had gone on before. That doesn't mean we're where we should be. And what I really wanted to talk about when I raised my hand was vehicles. And this other issue came
Your
up.
Honor, this has gone on so long, we've not had a chance to respond. She's asked several questions here, made several allegations, quoted several anonymous sources. We can't keep up with everything and respond to it. You keep making all these questions and allegations and posing these issues, and you need to give them a chance to respond to that.
I did
Like,
expect a
first of
response,
all,
and you sat there.
slack in the budget. You went from slack in the budget to paving a dead-end road, to people tell me they're unhappy. Now all of a sudden we're on vehicles. You've not given the opportunity for these people to respond to those. So if you would give us the courtesy to wait a minute
George,
and
just a
respond to
minute.
things before you go on down your laundry list. We can't keep up with everything.
George, hang on just a moment.
I'm tired of county employees being berated also. And also would like for these people to come forward who are unhappy with it and
George,
come and talk to me or Donnie instead of this quoting you and us taking your word for it, because you obviously won't take our word for it that
George,
there was a school bus that
you are
needed
out
to
of
be
order.
done.
You're out of order. We're going to have
I'm sorry, Your Honor, you asked me to be here to protect these
Yes,
people.
and I
That's what
want
I'm
you
to
here.
do.
That's right. I want you here.
But, you know, this is too much, and Butch has said it himself. It's gone way overboard.
Let's go
If
ahead to the
JP
next.
Madison would give us the courtesy to answer the questions without going on and on with this long laundry
Okay,
list and
we're
never
going to
having
go
a
back
chance
to the
answer.
comments that J.P. Madison has been talking about. Okay, guys, anything that you want to answer her questions on?
Madam
So-
Judge, I made one request, that was looking at the total cost, and obviously that's going to take some time for them to do some background. I'd rather move on and ask about the take-home vehicles.
You talked about slack in the budget. That needs to be addressed too. There's not slack in the budget.
I was
There are
addressing the road
projects that are
department
not going to
employees.
get done.
George, you're going to have to hang on.
Sorry, Your Honor, I've lost my temper because this badgering is gone on. It's almost like we're in court and they need an attorney here to protect them because the witness is being badgered.
Okay, hang on, just a minute. Hang on, guys, we can't do this.
Okay, go ahead and recess.
Let's take a recess right now. I want to call this meeting back to order, and I do mean order. What we need to do is remember we're here for budget studies. We cannot argue every project that the county has done over the last 7 years. So what we need to do is keep this on the line of what we're doing. If there's something that needs to be discussed, it doesn't need to be at the budget, then you can call any one of the departments and visit with them. But I want to maintain order and civility in this from here on. And if anyone gets out of line, I'm going to call a point of order on it. So we are ready to proceed. Yes. Yes, ma'am. You still have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, back to where we left off. I wanted to know the current number of employees who take home vehicles every night.
I don't have that information tonight. I wasn't prepared. I thought we were just talking about the budget items. Last I saw, that item was on, I think, October 29th's agenda.
Well, we talked about it at the last budget meeting, okay? How many pool vehicles do you have then?
I don't know.
You don't know anything about your vehicles?
Well, no,
Okay.
not to say I don't know
She was called for
anything.
point of orders. So what do I do, Attorney Zaga?
It has to do with the budget, yes, J.P. Madison, but it
Hey,
doesn't.
just a minute. You can't cross and talk to one another. So,
I'm sorry. Judge, a point of order, this doesn't have anything to do with us passing the budget.
Madam Judge, if I may, I think the expense of vehicles going back and forth to
Judge, a
home
point of order is not debatable. It does not open the floor for debate. The question before you is to rule on Justice Harbison's point of order. And the point of order is, this is not, as I understand it, is she's objecting to this line of statements and questioning being not germane to the topic at hand.
then I will have to rule that J.P. Harbison is correct because I feel that.
I would like to appeal that ruling.
All right. An appeal to overturn the judge's ruling that the point of order was well taken, and have to give me a second. It's a simple majority. And the question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? In other words, a yes vote sustains the judge's point of ruling, a no vote overrules it.
Okay. Does everyone understand what you're voting on? You're voting on a point of order. J.P. Pond.
One question, do we have any discussion before we
No.
vote on the
No.
appeal? All right.
Carly, would you call the roll?
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom? No. Eva Madison?
No. Make sure I know what's being voted.
You're voting against the chair's ruling if you vote no.
No.
Sue Madison?
No.
Joel Maxwell? Yes. Gary McHenry?
No.
Joe Patterson?
No.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
No.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes. Wait, 7-8.
7-7, the point of order is overruled, and Justice Madison may continue.
Go ahead, J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. My point is to try to understand how much we're spending on maintenance for vehicles that are used to transport employees to and from their residence. That is germane to the budget. And as much as we've discussed this, I'm a little surprised you don't have those answers for us. Can you make a guess?
No, I'm not going to guess on something like that. I don't feel like I should. One of the things that I would like to mention, though, is, and I mentioned this last year, you keep saying that we're spending money on maintenance, but I think it's very important to look at one thing is driving to the shop or from the shop to the job, back to the job, to bring the truck back is going to be more costly in most cases, I'm sure, than those people that live near their home and have a shorter distance to their grader, to the job site. And I think that's something very important to look at. And also the loss in productivity. If we're looking at what's best for the county and what's best for the citizens of Washington County, how can we not look at that?
I agree, and I think it is important to look at that. But I believe employees come to the road department at least once a week to drop off uniforms or pick up uniforms. So that day, everybody comes to the county road department.
And
That's
paperwork.
1 out of 5. What I'd like to see is perhaps a careful analysis of, is this a benefit to the county dollar-wise or is it not? Where in the budget would I find the maintenance on the county vehicles?
Well, it kind of depends, under repair parts. Of course, tires and tubes would be part of that. Under fuel and oil, that would be part of it.
And do you do all the maintenance on your vehicles? I think we learned from the sheriff that he gets his oil changed at...
No, we do all of ours.
You do all of your maintenance?
Yes.
Okay. Do you still have take-home vehicles that are going out of county?
At this time, no, we do not. All of ours, anybody that lives out of the county, like we have one grader operator that lives in Crawford County. He parks it at another operator's home and, drives his own personal vehicle to that point. So he doesn't have to leave it.
What kind of guidelines do you have for where they're parked? I know the sheriff makes sure that his vehicles are parked in what he deems to be a safe location. I think one going to Benton County stays parked at the Springdale Police Department. So what are your guidelines for where they're parked?
Same thing. We really like them to be parked at employees' houses that have the room and, that are okay with it. I think some of them may be citizens' houses, but for the most part, it's an employee's home that has a room that the vehicle can be parked away and shouldn't have to worry about being backed into and could be, kept an eye on.
Well, that brings up another question that's on my list here then. Is it okay with our insurance?
That would be a question for, I guess, our insurance, George.
I mean, where does our insurance presume these vehicles are at night?
I don't know that they presume, and it's something I can check on. This is quite common throughout the state, and AAC has our vehicle liability, so I can certainly ask them about that.
Judge. Okay. Justice Madison, if I may interpose, I asked that question of Mr. Driver several weeks ago when you and I had a brief discussion on this topic, and I don't believe I got a definitive answer from him. And I know I had a discussion either with Donnie or Sean about that. They referred me to Nelson, and I just didn't follow up with him when I didn't get a definitive answer.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I would like for you all to come up with some methodology for helping us to understand the expense of vehicles going home with employees. I mean, we encountered it when we talked about the IT budget the other night, and to the point they were pretty defensive about that was part of their compensation package. So we need to have a good analysis. We need to figure in depreciation on the vehicles, exposure to accidents, all that, and let's weigh it and see if it truly is a cost savings, employees time-wise, wear and tear on the trucks, all of that. And I think surely the next time we have this discussion, we'll have better answers. Thank you, Madam Judge.
I would like to make a comment, too, to some of the information that J.P. Madison has. I am working, I have asked Steve and George to work on a vehicle policy that we are putting together now. So I'd like to inform you all of that. We are working on that. Stephen George is writing this now, so I just want to inform you on this.
Your Honor? Yeah.
Yes,
If
go
I
ahead,
could make a
George.
statement on behalf of the road department. I wrote y'all a memo earlier, and I asked that the departments and the county judge be treated the same as like the assessor, who has several take-home vehicles, one of which goes back to Rogers, and that they be subject to the same level of scrutiny that John Adams and the road department have been subjected to on their vehicles, and any of your other departments with their take-home vehicles.
I would like to think that all county employees are treated the same, equally all the way around. Thank you, George.
Judge, can I
Yes,
make a comment?
Sean.
One thing I would like to add is, ours also, we're called out for emergencies, down trees. We had a problem with one of the dirt roads the other day. I went out. Actually, it's just, we get a lot of calls after hours also, that I think that's something to consider with these take-home vehicles.
You were out the other night in your own personal vehicle and
That's
had
right.
to sit there and wait until the police got there, didn't you?
Well, they were there. We actually waited for the grader to get there, but I was there over 4 hours.
Yeah, I know you were on your own. So, okay, the next one I have on the list is J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. First, Sean, I'd like to express appreciation for my constituents out on Savoy Road. Something you did for them here recently helped them on that problem. Looking at the cost of the...
Hey, Rick, talk just a little louder or pull
Okay.
your mic to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Looking at the cost, when we were talking back on the 900 loads at 46 miles, you're looking at 41,400 miles. That's about the quarter of the life of a truck saved, because 2 miles times 900 loads is only 800 miles. So right there, I can look at maybe $25,000 worth of cost savings on what you've done, putting my cost accounting hat on. Don't know what a cost of topsoil cost. I know what topsoil costs, but I don't know what the red dirt cost when you're out there, but multiply that by 900 times, and that's savings as well. You had to reclaim, whether you reclaimed at your pit or the individual's land. You had some labor saving. How much time does it take to drive 50 miles, 46 miles versus 2 miles? It looks like the cost benefit on that is very good, very positive for the county, so thank you. One of the things that one of the other JPs brought up is that we kind of had reduced the budget, but I just want to remind everybody to combine the road fund budget with the half-cent budget when you bring them together, because we do budget that half-cent road. So if you take the $665,000 and add it to the $7,891,000, you're at $8,556,000. And going back a couple of years, for 2014 actual, it's $8,591,000. So there just a little bit. It's fairly level. And considering what has been accomplished each year, I know this year was kind of a bust year for keeping the roads in order because of the diversion of our funds towards bridges. But all in all, I didn't have any more calls with my constituents this year than any other year. So you managed to keep, at least in my area, the roads in good enough repair that they weren't upset, and managed to balance your budget and stay in there. So I commend you for that. I would move to pass the budget 0200 County Road.
We have a motion on the floor.
We do?
Ann made the motion.
That's
Yeah.
right. We do. Okay. Well, then I'll call for the question.
Okay.
Judge, that you've got people still on the list. The question would require a 2/3 vote to shut down. Yes, that's also true.
Second.
All right. The call for the question is not debatable, and it requires a 2/3 vote.
Carly, would you call the roll, please?
I'm first, so I need to
If you vote yes, you're voting to shut down debate.
vote against it.
Okay. Carly, would you call the roll?
Sharon Lloyd,
No, I'm on the list.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
Joe Maxwell.
No.
Gary McHenry.
No.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
No.
Harvey Bowman.
No.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
No, I want to hear what Sharon has to say.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Motion fails. The question fails, Judge. Debate's still open.
Okay. Now, you spoke a little bit. I've still got you on the list. Mr. Dennis.
No, I said
You've already done,
I
okay.
said the same thing I said. I just sat here and did the simple math while ago because it was asked, and I just did fuel at 24,840. My assumption was the 900 loads going 46 miles, and my assumption was 60 cents a mile on a dump truck, which I think is pretty cheap. And then multiplied it out, and that was 24,840 on fuel, and then I took $16 an hour times an hour. If they're traveling an hour, then that's an hour of labor, and I gave them $16 an hour times 900. That's 14,400. And then red dirt, I hit a low figure of $75. If you were buying red dirt at 75 would be I think a super bargain. I didn't know for sure, but I don't think I could buy any for that. But that times that many loads would be 67,500 on red dirt, and that all added up to be 106,740. And so, based on what I saw out there, and the common sense of it, just using the product that was there and given to us, and it just made common sense that it would save a tremendous amount of money to the county, even doing the amount that they did. Now, jealousy between neighbors is always going to exist. It existed, it started in biblical days, Two brothers got into it, right at the beginning. So that'll always be there. There'll always be jealousy, and I don't think we can legislate that out. So I thought it was a good job. I thought it looked great. My compliments to the road department.
Okay, the next, J.P. Lloyd.
Okay, this is so insignificant now that I feel like. But if I didn't tell you all, thank you for the road tour. I very much enjoyed it. It was very informative. I feel good about the barter system with the people that will do the dirt. So this JP supports that. But my question is so insignificant, but it is something I want to know. On 3101, education and training, I see it's gone up 3,000. Could you just fill me in on what kind of things you're going to be doing for education? I'm an educator, and I'd like to.
Well, one of the things that before 2017, there's a new law that we have to train our crane operators, and that is the one thing. And honestly, I don't know. It's kind of new. There's not a lot of opportunities out there. So I don't know what that's going to cost, but that is probably the big one, and that's the reason that we wanted to increase it and be able to take care of that.
And I'm all for training and education, but I was curious about what it was. Okay, thank you.
J.P. Essery.
Just changing gears a little bit, how many miles of dirt road do we have? What's the total miles of dirt and non-dirt road?
Approximately 550 dirt road versus around 450 paved road. And that's the estimate.
I guess where I'm going with this is that we talk about the cities that they've annexed the roads. How many dirt roads have the cities annexed?
Not very many.
So my next question is, how much does it cost to maintain? You have to, at least in theory, you should grade a dirt road 2 times a year. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what we try to do.
Yes.
And so, can you give me an idea of what per mile that runs to grade a road?
If I can find it, I have that here. Unless I didn't print it out.
And then my next question while you're looking is, what does it cost to chip seal, and what does it cost to pave, like asphalt pave, a mile of road?
I guess I didn't print that out, but I know based on like averages and numbers that I came up with, it's around $220 to $250 a mile to grade a road. It takes, on average, I'd say 5 to 6 hours per mile, depending on the terrain, depending on the natural soil or what's available. So on gravel roads, that's about what it costs us on average.
Okay, and what would you say the maintenance cost is on a just a regular paved road?
Maintenance cost, we try to reseal with chip seal every 7 years. That is the maintenance program that has been for years. I know before I came in. And right now, with the costs we have today, it's costing us around $13,000 per mile. And that's the asphalt, CRS2, and then the chips. That doesn't include, the labor and all that. That is just materials.
Okay. All right. And I think that takes care of that part of those questions. But again, I'd like to point out that even though the cities have taken part of the responsibility away, that 90% of the responsibilities that we had, as far as what your guys do, that those jobs still have to be done.
Right.
And so therefore, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of cost savings by somebody taking something you've already done.
Right.
Is my point in that. And then I guess the other thing is that it's been alluded that you have a big pile of money, that you've been able to do the bridges and everything, and that you've got this, and that you're doing fine without it, so you don't need more money. When in fact, can you tell me how you managed to shuffle the money so that you could cover those costs?
Right. Part of the reason currently, I know it's been mentioned that we have it's around $2 million. We held off on doing our resale program this year, and there was approximately 43 miles that were due this year based on our program. So not knowing the cost of those bridges, we held off. Usually we start May, June, and start resealing and getting those done. This year we started way late. So there's roads we still haven't done, so we have those costs to incur. There's a lot that has been done that we haven't paid those bills yet. So a lot of that, and that's probably around $250,000 between the asphalt and the gravel that we still have to pay. One of the things that has helped is the fuel costs being lower. That has helped us to offset some of the the bridges. We also still have Harvey Dow to pay for that expense, what's being done out there, and I know that's still over $100,000. Crusher at Morrow went down last week. So far, that's at $25,000, over $25,000 for repairs that we weren't expecting. There's, let's see, I mean, just to name a few, there's paint striping for the roads that we resealed. That is probably going to run us between 60 and 80, and that's just a reseal. There's some roads out there that need restriped, but that we probably won't be able to do, won't be able to afford. So, and there's a lot of projects, there's a lot of things that we have cut back on to stay within budget. We haven't done all the striping that we should be doing. Of course, the equipment. When I say equipment, we haven't traded out or gotten new equipment that we probably should have, just to keep up with what we need to do. Maintenance on equipment, we try to do it, but also with what's going on, we try to get by. There's several hundred tile and boxes. We still have old boxes that were made, during WPA that they're still functional, but we need to replace, and that costs money. That's things that we're not doing. Improving the gravel roads and trying to get that balance and continuing to pave unpaved roads. That's something that we have cut back on. But there's a lot of things that we've had to cut back on just to make this year's budget work.
And I guess, and another point that I'm trying to make here is that sooner or later we're going to have to pay for what we're not paying for today.
Right.
And I know there's some other projects you have that need to be done, but we haven't gotten to. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I'm just suggesting that while it may look like that they're getting by, they're doing a very good job of managing what they have, and we're very grateful for that.
Thank you.
And so. I'm obviously going to support this. Thank you very much for what you do.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. In case y'all don't know it, J.P. Bowman gets really grumpy past midnight. At the rate we're going, it's going to be midnight here. Guys, as chair of the Public Works Committee, I've been working on some ideas about this vehicle issue that I think will be a great deal of help. And I'm going to ask you to, let's hold off on any more discussion about that until I present that at our next meeting, because I'm working with a guy from out in the industry that deals with a great big fleet, and he has some ideas I think might be appropriate for us to consider. So outside of that, we know there's a lot of issues here in this area that we could talk about all night. But I hope we can get on with the budget discussion now and try to bring this thing to a vote and finish up. Thank you.
J.P. Bowman, could I ask you a favor? If you've got some ideas you're working on, would you please get with Attorney Zaga, because he's working on a plan, and maybe you can see what you've got going together, and we might be able to come up with something better than what we did before. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. J.P. Patterson.
Just a couple of quick comments, because this is dragging on. But anyway, when we do this bartering system or whatever, when we done Haverton Road, we set our crusher on a guy's property right in his front yard and done the road both ways, and his house was right about in the middle at the top of the hill on the east side. As far as your spring leak there, I drove through there when water actually running down that road before it was blacktop, so you got your work cut out for you there. The good road that's still there was the one that goes to the Hunts Quarry, which they furnish the asphalt. We furnish the labor and the equipment. That's about 10 years running now. That asphalt's about 3 or 4 inches thick. It's not breaking up. When it started out, when things were busy, 300 loads a day, then the economy dropped, probably went to 50 loads a day. Now it's probably 200 loads a day. That road is just as flat. And the one just west of Tractor Supply, going down to the new park, they must be only about that thick, because I was going home last night and I noticed I can feel the car already, and that blacktop road is not over 2 years old. That's cities, I'm sure.
I think that's right. Yes.
They'll be redoing that in the next 3 years, I would predict, because all them school buses and everybody, and the trucks have just now started running on building that park. It's just starting to show up. You can feel it when you drive it last night. You can just feel it. Got sinking places in it. It's like it's actually on the highway on 412, just west of there, on the south lanes, going east. You feel a little dip, like Highway 49 out here, just a couple miles south of 412, where the old landfill was. It's got a whoop-de-doo in it. They've worked on that before. I don't know how far you have to go, but so I think the bartering system, we probably win some, we probably lose some, but anyway we get it done. I think it's a pretty good way to go when you're close and it works out for you. That's all I have. Thank you.
I've got two people I'm going to recognize, and then I'd like to go to the vote. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Trump, I was comparing some numbers, and I need you to help me. Our projected revenue numbers, and this may be a question for Ms. Bollinger, but in the projected numbers for revenue, which is page 39 in our book for those following along, it shows that the road fund's projected revenue is $10,245,000. And your budget, and that's not the half-cent sales tax. Am I right? That does not, no, it does include the half-cent sales tax. I'm trying to compare the actual budget request that's page 165 in our book to the revenue projection.
Cheryl, that may be a question for you.
Can you help me figure out what the right number is for?
If you look on page 31, it has that information. If you go down to the road, it will show you what carryover it's on page 31. If you go down to the road and go across, that first column is the projected carryover, and then you've got the new revenue will be coming in. Revenue is done by fund, so that would include the half-cent sales tax. And then you've got your total revenue to projected revenue, and then your 10% holdback. And then so what you have available to budget shows your budget, and then it'll show you what it would be in the unappropriated reserves. I actually don't do the revenue projections. The treasurer does, and he's here if you'd like to ask more questions about revenue projections. He's your man.
Mr. Hill, can you help me? Maybe you might need to come to the microphone, but I'm trying to understand for the budget that we're looking at, which is not the half-cent sales tax share, it's just the road fund. I'm trying to compare their budget number to the projected revenue in the fund. Can you, because I'm looking at it and I sort of think maybe it's your projection minus the half-cent sales tax.
It includes the half-cent sales tax on the road projection.
So are you back to looking at 39 again? Because I think 39 is your page. Is that right?
31 is the page that shows all of it. It shows, but the revenue projection and the revenue projections and the requested budget includes the half-cent. It's all, it's one fund, just like county general is presented as.
Well, they're the same numbers. The page 39 actually shows the breakdown with the half-cent sales tax, because the bottom line number is the same. It just shows the breakdown. So I'm trying to get to how much revenue do we expect in this fund that's available to budget?
For the road minus the half-cents?
I guess. And then does that $10 million number at the bottom include the holdback or not?
No, that's the way it does. We don't hold back anything on projections. That's 100%.
Okay. So available to budget. So if I'm doing it correctly.
No, it's not available to budget. If you'll look at 31, it shows that total number less the 10% holdback plus the requested budget, and it will show what would be unappropriated reserves.
And what is that number? Because I'm not sure I'm looking at the right number.
Available budget number?
Ms. Bollinger, what's your number? Is that it?
Okay, on 2000.
Okay.
It's going to show what the projected carryover is.
Right.
And you've got an O page here. And then the new revenue and the total revenue.
Which is
and
the
then
same
the
as that.
holdback.
Okay.
And then what would be available to budget, and this is what they're requesting. And this page is wrong because apparently you haven't changed out that page.
I don't think that number changed.
Yours is right. She hasn't changed her page to that when she got them.
Because I'm trying to actually compare what you're requesting to what's available and see how those mesh.
Available to budget for the road would be around 8.3 million if you subtract the half-cent sales tax from that.
That's Cheryl's fault.
Okay. Does that sound right? Is that, okay. So what's the number again?
$1,114,000.
And that's left in unappropriated reserves?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So y'all know that you're leaving money.
Yes. And that's, as far as the exact amount, no, I wasn't sure on that. But, part of what we've heard, build up the reserves. We need to save money. That's what, I'm trying to give you all a true budget, cutting back still. And actually, I found out today that some of the numbers, I may have to, I won't adjust any numbers, but some of our reseal. But, I think it's important, as well as y'all do, to have reserves. One of the things is budget is not, it doesn't know what type of winter we're going to have. And so I think it's important to have some money if we have to come back and ask for more because of a bad winter, which they're predicting.
Well, because here's, and this is what I'm trying to figure out, because at some point I think we have to start looking at why the general fund is in bad shape and the road fund is in good shape. That's just the reality of kind of the way the numbers are working out right now. And part of that's because I feel like we're dedicating 40% of the 1 cent sales tax, the general purpose sales tax, to you all. And if I look at this and think that 1.1 that's left in reserves is really sort of general fund reserves. It could be used for you all. It could be used for the sheriff's office. It could be used for, a tornado or something, because that we're giving you general purpose revenue. It's not earmarked like the half-cent sales tax is.
Well, I guess I disagree. Like I've mentioned, there's a lot of things that we're cutting back on, and that's all we're hearing is cut back, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But I guess now I feel like we're
No.
We
That's-
can use that money if that's what you're saying. What I mentioned, we have tile to replace. We have boxes from the WPA that need replaced.
But you're not
We
asking us
have-
for it. And so there's an additional $1 million that you're anticipating based on your budget compared to the revenue that's going to be
If there's
expected to be
$1
left
million,
over.
that's not the number I was told.
There's one thing that I'd like to remind you, though. At the end, that's what, if all the money came in and if they spent what they requested and not anymore, that's what they would have at the end of the year. Well, they're going to need money in January and February of the next year. You have to have a cash flow. So that money needs to be there, especially with a department their size, because like he says, you don't know what's going to happen in January and February.
I think Mr. Hill's projections have been spot on, so I feel good about those. Well, because part of what I'm struggling with is that I think at some point we're going to have to try to squeeze the road department a little bit. I mean, I'm suggesting that I don't know. I don't have the answer is part of my problem, why I'm struggling, because I look at a really big budget that is taking 40% of general purpose revenue from the 1 cent sales tax that is almost $3 million that could shift to general fund purposes that are in need, because we are right now, your fund is fine. You're going to come out with money. Well, that's what you proposed in the way of the budget, but the general fund is not. We're in the hole $1.8 million roughly. So I'm struggling with that.
I think I would caution, I mean, you get behind on a road system that's almost 1,000 miles, and that's where we're headed. We are headed to just get behind. Washington County has always been the top of counties for maintaining and having good roads. Go to neighboring counties, go across the state lines. That is what the people of Washington County deserve and expect. And I think also we're going to have issues with, we still have to get the emergency personnel down these roads.
Well, and I don't suggest that Washington County doesn't have good roads. Would never put that forward. But
we currently do, but the cutbacks we've made, there's safety issues, and like I said, we're headed for bad roads, and we're going to be compared to neighboring counties.
Well, and I think J.P. Madison's comments that I think I sort of struggled with too. It was kind of surprising that, given the additional budget expenditures that came as a result of the bridge repairs, that you all didn't ever need to ask us for more money. And it seems like if there's a year where you can absorb that kind of expense, it does make us question the overall budget. Because I know that a question came up about safety equipment right after the May bridge investigation report. I said, hey, if you all need money to buy safety equipment, I will be glad to help you with that. You all didn't need any more money. Everything, all the improvements that you're making at the road department, the improvements that you're making to the bridges, you've not had to ask us for any more money. And that just, realize that gives us concern, at least me, because I think, golly, how are they absorbing all these additional costs?
At the expense of the roads. I mean, I thought I went over that earlier. The things that we are not doing, we're not restriping roads that need restriped. We're not adding, we're not paving more roads. There's so many things, because all we hear is, we got to save money, we got to up the reserves. So we're trying to do what is asked of us, and I thought we had done a good job. And I mean, I guess, is there anything that I'm not explaining well?
No, I guess, if you're leaving money on the table, which that's sort of what I think you're doing right now, why are you telling us that you're being forced to not do projects that you think need doing? I'm not following that.
Well, for one, the amount of money, I guess I'm questioning about. I mean, now what we're leaving. But the reason I did that, last year, our available cash balance got the lowest I've seen it get since I've been doing this. And that, to me, that concerns me, because just like we said, in January, February, March, there's not as much revenue coming in, so we have to be able to make those months.
Yeah, but you
that
can
is
be
our worst
you all
winter
can be
time.
helped from the general fund. I mean, realize that.
Well,
if
but
you
I
all
think,
if you all got stuck, we can help you. So
I'm
general
be,
county reserves.
I'm going
help
to be
everybody.
honest with with what we've seen this year and what the animal shelter went through, I'm going to be honest with you, the employees are scared to death to come up here. I mean, after tonight, I'm even more scared. I feel intimidated. I don't feel comfortable coming here anymore. It is like the employees against the quorum court, and that's sad. That's not how this county should be.
Well, but realize that the only opportunity we have really to get information, because of the way this body is set up, is to ask questions. And I don't think that y'all should ever feel like simply being asked a question is being intimidated.
It's not simply being asked a question. I think we saw that tonight. It wasn't simply being asked a question, but I'm just being honest with this court. That is how, you know, and I'll speak for myself. I won't even speak for others, knowing what's been said. But I feel intimidated and dread coming to these meetings. It used to be enjoyable to talk to the quorum court and feel like we were all on the same team. That just doesn't happen anymore, and it's sad for Washington County.
Well, tight budget times make it harder for us to do our jobs,
well, tight
too.
budget times don't have anything to do with what I'm talking about.
Can we move forward? Let's go ahead and move on.
Well, I think at this point, until I really have a better feel for what's going on in the road department, I'm not going to be able to support your budget, and unfortunately, I think it's going to give me pause over the final budget because I suspect it will pass. I don't feel like I have a good grasp for how things are being spent, and I just feel it's fair to share that with you before my vote.
And I would like to say, I'm available. I mean, if you would like to come, sit down, go over the budget, any questions, I mean, I am happy to do that with anybody, you know, anytime.
That's what we try to do here, and you all think that we're being mean.
Well, you know, I don't think I have to. I think we all know, but
Let's go ahead and move on. I've got one more I'm going to recognize, and then I think we need to call for the vote. J.P. Harbison.
Okay, I'm going to address this 1 cent sales tax.
We're not there on that.
No, well, it has to do with the road money. I'm talking about the road money. I'm talking about the road money. I'm talking about the 40%. All right, we get 40% of the 1 cent sales tax. That is reduced every time we have a census. We went from 22% to 18%. So we're talking about 40% of 18%. And so it's like, well, we've got money, yes, but it's being reduced continuously every time there is a census. All right. We get approximately, on turnback is 35%. Cent sales tax, 15%. The millage rate is 15%. And the sales tax is 33% of the road budget.
And let's go ahead and...
Okay, well, just let me finish, please, because this has to do with the road and the funding of the road.
Hang on just a minute.
Wait, Justice Madison raised a point of order. May I inquire, Justice Madison, articulate your point of order, please.
The point of order is that we've been trying to keep on topic, and I was asking questions about the sales tax to try to compare it to the budget. She's going into a full discussion on a revenue source that's not up for vote right now. The only thing up for vote is the budget, which I was trying to clarify how that budget compares to the revenue, and we're getting way off topic. This is not germane to the motion of the budget that's before us.
Say one more.
You can't debate.
You can't debate.
A point of order. Judge, it's for you to rule.
I'm going to rule that we need to move forward.
Okay. Sustaining the point of order. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. We're fixing to vote on the budget. Everyone understands that. Carly, would you call the roll?
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lindstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
No.
Sue Madison?
No.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
So now we're ready to, I'm a little bit confused.
Now you're on the half-cent sales tax.
Yeah, and we did discuss that a little while, but we're going to go into the full budget of the road half-cent sales tax. So, Sean?
I'm ready for questions.
Are you really ready?
Well.
Okay, J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. This budget for 201 is basically kissing cousins to the main budget, and I move to pass the budget for 0201.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Carla, would you call the roll?
Sharon Lloyd? Yes. Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison? No. Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joel Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate you. Does anyone need a break for 5 minutes? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, let's get started again. I appreciate calling the meeting back to order. Next thing we have on the agenda is buildings and grounds. You better get in here. Okay, the buildings and grounds is going to be 9394. Mr. Wood, proceed.
I'll get it all out here.
That's okay.
I guess for all of you that was here last year, you're looking at basically the same thing that was approved for last year. We did move a little bit of money.
Ron, pull your mic around in front of you.
We did move some money around inside the budget from one line to another. Some that we had money left over, we moved it from that line down into another line. But it is the total budget numbers are exactly the same as they were last year. I guess I'm ready for questions.
J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Well, the big number was already discussed in a previous meeting, and that number is reflected for the $149,000 for the road roof, and that's a good project. The only item that I noticed is a little difference is on the line 2003. Current expenditures just under $17,000, but you're looking at the same budget, $60,000 for both years. But do we have some heavy expenses coming up in the fourth quarter? What's the game there?
What line was that again?
2003 janitorial supplies.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You've got 6 months.
Remember, those expenditures are for the first 6 months.
Yes, in 6 months is 17,000, so double that would be 34,000. But we're looking at 60,000 budget. So I'm curious, do we have some heavy expenses in the fourth quarter, third and fourth quarter that we're not aware of?
I'm looking at it.
Oh, you look at the statement of operations?
0108,
Oh, you're looking.
janitorial supplies, 2003.
And what was your question?
Well, we have 17,000 in 6 months year to date.
Okay, so you are looking at the statement of operations. No, excuse me.
I'm looking
Okay.
at the
You're looking
0108
at
buildings and
expenditures
grounds.
to date. I got you.
Right.
I got you. Sorry.
2015 actual expenditures for 2003 is 16,826.77.
Okay.
Okay? There you go.
I've got today's numbers.
Okay.
Okay, that was, part of that was for animal shelter. And then now it's decreased.
Okay.
And today, let's see, these is today's figures, right?
Okay, if we've decreased for the animal shelter, why didn't we not decrease what our request is?
Jennifer, get the mic up close to him. There you go.
I mean, it's just never been decreased since the animal shelter took over their own janitorial.
But shouldn't we decrease line 2003 since they've added it to their budget?
Sure, go for it.
Where do you think that ought to be? I'm asking you. I'm not going to throw a number. I want to be fair with you. Since that money is moved over to their side, you kind of know what you were spending. I think that number should be adjusted.
Okay. I see what you're saying there.
Right.
I'm about to catch up.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not beating up on you. I just knew that was probably an oversight.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was, what was that, 28?
is 40,000 a reasonable number? I don't want to cut
It
you.
was more like 30, I think is what we had.
You think 30?
Right now, we're at 30,000.
I think it was 30.
I was going to say,
And
the
I'm
previous years,
off the top of my head, that should be about $30,000.
about 30,000. So I'm proposing moving line 2003 from 60,000 to 30,000. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of changing that line item, say aye. Opposed, same sign.
I'm still in, getting some clarification. I was thinking that we moved 42,500 from the animal shelters budget, or from this budget, was usually paying for the animal shelter, that we moved that back, that the total amount was 42,500 that was being handed to the animal shelter.
Go ahead.
I need to back up just a little
Okay,
bit on this.
start over, Ron.
As of today, in 2003, we have spent $28,110.39.
Okay, so it sounds more like you need to be about 35. Is that
At least we've still got 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah, we already passed it.
So is 35 where you want to be on 2003? Or do you
Rick,
need-
now, we've already voted on that
Yes,
30.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
But
You
I'm
know,
go-
always when you-
I'm going to defer to Ron, not that, so since I still have the floor, is 30 going to work for you? I know we voted for it. Sounds like it's not.
Hopefully, we are doing some work. We talked about, it's kind of backing up a little bit about as far as savings in that area, and we are headed that direction. We have started doing some things different, and hopefully we can make
Okay.
up some difference there.
All right. Good luck to you. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank you. J.P. Maxwell, yeah. Oh, okay. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion, Pastor?
But we passed the buildings and grounds budget.
Have a second?
Second.
As amended.
I was going to ask, may I, Justice Harbison, you mean with Justice Cochran's amendment?
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, I have a motion with amendment. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison? Joel Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry? Joe Patterson? Butch Pond? Bill Essery? Daniel Balls? Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran? Robert Dennis? Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Okay, move on to the next budget, jail buildings and grounds.
No, he just did that.
No, he did
I'm
buildings and
sorry,
grounds.
Judge.
That's,
My bad.
huh? Okay, jail, that's at 197, 198. Ready for questions?
Okay, Jennifer's sitting there telling me we do have a minor change, so I'm going to let her explain it.
Okay, Jennifer, take the mic.
Line item 3020 is where we pay for all the fire alarms and elevator emergency
Take the mic.
lines.
Take the mic.
On line item 3020, we needed to increase it by 600 to pay the fire alarm and emergency elevator lines. Cox had two of our lines on a different account, and in the middle of the year, that got switched after we'd already submitted budgets. So that line item needs to increase by 600 to make it 1,800. And then the common carrier, which is line item 3031, we would like to put 600 there. The line was not on the budget on the original request. For training purposes, And that would decrease out of the 3,009 professional services for both of those.
Pardon?
30, 31.
Jennifer, do it again, because some of them had a hard time hearing you.
That's 3031 was not on the original request. It was not in the, we didn't have that to pick from. And
Okay, that's a new line item.
For us, in
Okay.
that, yes. And in hindsight, we didn't have
This
it.
is jail buildings and grounds, yes.
The jail, for training purposes, we have no way to get them there without that line item. And we didn't have that line before.
Everybody understand? I think it was, tell us,
Yeah, common carriers for airplanes.
has everybody caught up? Okay. J.P. Cochran?
Thank you, Judge. As I understand it, you want to take $600 away from line 3009,
For the common carrier,
move it to line 3031.
correct.
So that's basically neutral, and add $600 to the fax landline, line 3020.
Yes,
So that's
also
modific-
removed from 3009.
And move, excuse me?
Removed from 3009 also.
Both of them came out.
Oh, okay, so,
Both
so 2,400 is removed from 3009.
did you
So
call that?
basically, it's a wash.
It is a
You're
wash.
just going to go ahead and
Okay.
and swap
Yeah,
that.
it's total wash, just
Okay,
things
okay.
that came up after we'd already
Exactly,
finalized.
exactly. Well, I would move to pass 0127 budget.
I have a motion and a second with the amendments, okay. J.P. Madison?
So the changes you proposed leave your bottom line the same?
Yes.
Okay, so you're taking out of other professional services,
Correct.
which makes me wonder, what is that
It
for this
pays
budget?
labor. Labor for contractors, mostly contractors, labor.
Okay. Because you'd gone up slightly this year, and you're essentially taking that away. And then other years, that's, I mean, in 14, that was over 100, so I guess what do you anticipate coming out of that line item for next year for the other professional services?
You never know.
Yeah, we don't know. That's where,
What breaks, fix it.
yeah.
Okay.
If we have to bring somebody in to fix something, if it gets one of our bigger pieces of equipment breaks
Okay.
that we can't do in-house, and when we bring people.
So you're
in.
borrowing from that line item, crossing your fingers that it all works out? Okay, okay, that's what I needed to know. Thanks.
J.P. Lundstrom?
I'm assuming this is the budget that you're putting that new truck in,
Yes,
that I got chewed out for the other night for voting for it?
yes.
Okay. I noticed down here it's 23,000 in this budget.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? We have a motion, a second. No other discussion. Carly, call the roll.
Sharon Lloyd,
Yes.
Tom Lester,
Yes.
Eva Madison, Sue Madison, Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman, Rick Cochran, Robert Dennis, Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison.
Sorry about that, Joe.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Chase your line. My regular chase your lines with.
Computer people.
101.
Yes, 101, 102. Alan, do you need to come up here with John? Pull your chair up there with him.
Oh, Alan, yeah.
Your Honor, before we start, one thing I want to make clear to Corey is that they turned down his.
Get the mic, George.
Turned down the request for 2 new employees the other night and some capital requests. They are still in this they are still in this budget right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Pardon?
The one that's in your book should be, it's not been revised.
It has now?
It has.
Yours just didn't get revised.
Mine did, I didn't, I
He needs a
didn't,
revision.
I didn't put my revision sheet in. Okay, here we go. Now, so all of that is out, all right, Cheryl?
John,
I just want to make sure we're looking at the same thing. I have a revised page 101 dated 10/8.
Yeah.
And the overall request is $1,238,188.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
Cheryl just handed me, so.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
John, you ready for questions?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, J.P. Harbison? Yeah.
The other night, we discussed personnel and capital outlay. And I talked to John, and I feel that we've really never given him all the people that he has requested. I'm kind of with like everybody else, maybe that this is a pretty large request. I'm going to make a motion that we add one person, not two, one, to his request for personnel. And that be at his discretion how he fills that position.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Wait, I've got J.P. Madison first. You know.
I don't want to speak on that motion. I
Okay.
just want to speak to the general budget, so
Okay,
I'll
J.P.
pass for now.
Cochran.
Okay. As I understand it, you want to add a programmer and system analyst grade 24?
Yes.
$48,046 plus, that's annual salary plus the benefits that would go with that.
Right.
Can you give us a number on the total that we would add?
We'll hold up just a second so we get that number.
Okay, thank you, Judge. That's what I wanted to get as the
Okay.
cost.
Cheryl, how long, or shall we just, I don't want to proceed until we know what we're talking about there.
You could entertain other debate on that, or other discussion on that motion, unless,
There's none.
and understood that Justice Cochran yielded the floor. Yeah.
Okay, now, so we have a motion to add another employee, and then we had a second on that, did we not? And then we're waiting for the money, so we can go ahead and discuss this while we're waiting on so J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Just let's try to stay on the same page. She's putting a position back in that we denied the last time we considered this budget. Am I correct, Judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, why do we consider these things twice? Is that standard? It's not done until it's done, is that it?
Is this question for me, Justice
Yes.
Madison?
Sorry.
Yes, would you
Yes.
please?
I think it's a valid motion on 2 points. One is, as you just alluded to, in a general sense, until you vote on the budget, nothing is permanent. And the second is that it's not exactly the same motion. In other words, the other night, what you voted on was 3 positions. You're now voting on 1 instead of 3. So it's, in my opinion, it's different enough to be not have to go through the formalities of bringing it back to reconsider.
Well, if I might, for future budget hearings, perhaps we shouldn't separate out personnel and capital like we did, because we're just revisiting many of these then, but that we hope is a long time away. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, Madison?
I'm confused because I don't want to speak on the motion. So if we're speaking on other topics, I'll speak. But if we're sticking to the motion, then I don't think we can.
Speaking on the motion.
Hang on, Cheryl? Okay, now say that again on your mic.
That would be $63,752. That would include health, life insurance, retirement, and the FICA.
Yeah, $63,000. So now we can go back to the motion to add, that we've got the amount of money, we've got a second on that. Now the floor is open for discussion to add a new employee. vote? J.P. Cochran?
I would ask John Adams to speak to the need for the employee and what we will do with it.
No, I have the same problem you guys got, pushing the button. You know, for one person, it will give me the opportunity to help some of the departments bring in some of the applications from the outside. Like we spoke the other night, we brought a lot of third-party applications inside. And that averaged, for example, Bobby Hill's in the back, and we've done his program this year to be upgraded. If we had taken that outside, that cost $250,000 potentially to get. So by having a programmer in-house, it can help us with this. Our long-term goals with a lot of this is we got this little silly program called SunGuard. SunGuard cost us quite a bit when we first originally bought it. They have an upgrade now. They want just $70,000 for the upgrade. If my department had the adequate staffing, we can bring that in and not just incorporate time clock into it, but incorporate it into HR, where HR has 3 different programs that they have to go to look up information for them. If they had one centralized place to get this information, it'd be much easier for them, much more efficient, and all those maintenance fees that we have to pay and a lot of this stuff can disappear. I'd really respect that we had more people. However, if you're just willing to give me one, I will take one. It will help me get at least a couple projects that some of the elected officials have asked me to bring in-house to give it consideration and look at it. It takes a little while to ramp somebody up, but one project that I've been asked to bring in-house is $60,000 plus the maintenance.
What is that project?
It is the Data Scout project. So what we call that is the previous assessor outsourced everything, and they want to bring it in-house for cost savings.
How long will it take to develop that?
That'll take about 6 months.
Okay. So in 6 months, you'll spend $32,000 and save $60,000.
Yes, sir.
There's your money. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other discussion? We ready for a vote? Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom?
No.
Eva Madison?
No.
Sue Madison? Joe Maxwell?
No.
Gary McHenry? Joe Patterson? Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Motion did not pass.
Okay. So now we're back to the regular budget without the employee, so let's move forward with John's budget. So was you next on the list? You take next.
I wanted to ask, and this may have been just my lack of attention to other budgets, but other budgets have stayed flat in their personal services, and you all have a considerable increase in your health insurance matching, and I couldn't make sense of that.
I wouldn't know. Cheryl?
I wondered if it maybe didn't get adjusted from the decrease somehow. Do you know? Because other budgets that have stayed flat on personal services have stayed flat, so I don't understand why IT's health insurance matching would have gone up from $34,000 to $49,000.
J.P. Cochran, okay.
Yes, I'm
do you
looking.
have an answer to that?
Yes, I do. I'm looking at the previous version of this, and it is $49,320. So I think it probably is an omission to decrease it.
Because if your personal expenses are staying flat, it would seem your health insurance matching, because we haven't adjusted anything. I don't think we can with matching, because I think we maxed out. So I think that number is wrong. I think it should probably be at the same number it was in 15, 34,524.
Yeah. You need my sheet again?
And then I wanted to hear about in the. Are y'all? I don't want to get ahead of you. Are you good with that? Or do we? Is that the answer? That it was just wrong?
She's figuring.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
just
go ahead.
go on with other
Yeah.
questions. So in the other services and charges, I'm interested in lines 3009, 3023, and 3102, just because they're big jumps.
Just a second, please.
Okay.
That's what it should be.
Okay.
Cheryl provided an updated number on the health insurance. It's $39,4 56. That's 39456.
Okay.
In that, so that would not be the
Not the same.
49,320.
Okay. Okay, so now,
would you repeat that,
Yeah.
too, please?
repeat the number?
Your second question.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll just do it. We'll do 3,009 first. It's gone up $5,000, and it's that other professional services category, which is just kind of a catch-all, so can you just explain the increase?
The increase is for anticipated projects that we're going to have, that we're going to need some people to help stand some things up. So, for example, we've talked about exchange before. Next year is a big year for product. Microsoft has announced they're replacing our servers with 2016, Exchange with 2016, and all of those other things. So to be able to accomplish some of those, I'll need some outside resources.
Okay. And then what about through 3023 internet connection?
I hate the internet connection. And the reason I do, today I got a notice, guys, that the internet's going to go up 15% starting November 1st. So I've got to adjust for that. This request, though, here is to accommodate the Extension Agency and the Health Department for their connections for the next year. And that was what...
How come we don't charge that to them in their budgets?
I pay all of it.
Well, we see some budgets that have internet connections.
There is some, for example, for Lincoln with the assessor and the collector and Springdale, because they're the only ones that use it. So they go out from their location back to here, and they pay that.
Is there not a way to break this out? Because it makes your budget look bad when it's the extension services expense. But, I mean, we had their phone expenses in their budget.
And now we got the internet phone expenses for that as well, because that's the way the contract was written. I didn't know that that was, remember we had that
so the
kind of fall upon us
The zero
moment.
line items for phone expenses are now just all in your budget.
And also remember, too, because the circuit clerk had a new project called Contexist, and that had us go up considerable. So we were at 10, which should have been sufficient, but we needed 100 to be able to accommodate his product. And
10 what?
The Contexus, him, Kyle Sylvester,
No, 10.
circuit clerk.
10 what?
10 megabits, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Didn't hear. 10 megabits, and we had to go up to 100. And that's to accommodate all the people throughout the county that's anticipated using that program, based on a formula that the Arkansas Office of the Courts gave us that would be needed. And it's went live, as we talked about the other day.
If you could find a way to put those in other budgets, you should. Okay, and then I skipped this one in my first list, but 3101, a $15,000 increase in training.
Yes, because of some of these products that's coming out for the maintenance of the 2016 office and all these, I need to train some people. I'm going to be training 2 people with 2016 SQL and with 2016 Server and 2016 Exchange. And the difference between standing them up and maintaining them is, standing them up is a one-time thing. You built the house, now we have to maintain the house. And these guys need that training to do that. That's 5 classes that they'll be able to attend.
Okay, so what about, well, they must not be going anywhere for the training, because I don't see a comparable increase in the travel costs.
What? Yes. Yeah. The reason I didn't raise the travel up is there is a potential that some of these can be webinars.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, because you would expect to see that.
If they all can attend a webinar, those will come back into general.
Okay.
The Kelman Carrier and Mills.
So what about 3102, like a $100,000 increase in?
Yes, where you have a lot of software that's out of date. Okay. So we got Office 2007 in many places. We need to bring that up to Office 2016, which is fixing to come out, to be able to be compatible with some of the businesses and the people that we communicate with. We also need to upgrade all of our operating systems. Unfortunately, Microsoft and those powers above us, which dictate when they come out. Once we lose support for a product, we have to move the next product. Windows XP, we all know, is expired. Windows 7 is fixing to expire because of Windows 8. We've chosen not to go to Windows 8 because 10 is already out. So we're going to invest everything in Windows 10, and I'll have to buy those operating systems with that. And this is a different type of license than when you buy the system. So when you buy the system from Dell, you go out on the website, that license is tied to that particular hardware. This one, if my hardware needs to be upgraded, I can transfer it to any hardware and keep the licenses so we don't have to keep rebuying that. So it helps us with that a lot.
So I'm trying to understand, your budget is a little bit unique because I think there are expenses for other departments in here that we don't really understand. And I guess
and I agree, because sometimes what I think about it is I'm not a profit center, but I'm a profit center in some sense from
do we have
savings.
any of those in the county?
No.
I don't think we do.
But one of the things that's been advantageous for having it into my budget is then that it's a central focal management control point. And having that, I'm able to pay those license fees appropriately, not have to worry about did somebody else spend their money for something else because they had an emergency. So I can get these products out, roll them out quick.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there's efficiencies, but it's just that a lot of us have expressed an interest in knowing how much each department costs. And
that's one of those tough ones.
Well, and having extension service and the health department internet fees in your budget doesn't really give us an accurate depiction in the extension office's budget what their costs are. So let me ask about sort of a scenario, and you help me figure out what you paid for and what other people paid for, because the system that comes to mind is we were asked to upgrade the video cameras because the system that the sheriff's office used for monitoring this building was out of date.
And broke, correct.
Yeah, and so poor Ron Wood got the expense came out of his budget, but I understood that you all installed it.
Yeah, we took care of the whole entire project. I mean, you guys approved the money to come into my budget so that we could purchase the equipment that we needed, and my team and staff put that in place. We also have to train the deputies, in this case, how the new product works. So you utilized a partner to set it up, and then the rest of the team went out, put the cameras up wherever they were deemed by the deputies, and we ran the wires with Ron's electrician. So there was a lot of cooperative there, but the bulk of the money, it's easier for me to spend it, because one of the hard parts I really have is I get an item, and Jennifer, she left, but she does this to me all the time.
She was smart, she left.
Yeah. But I'll get an item in, and she'll go.
She's hiding.
Yeah, she's hiding probably. But I get an item in, such as a server, and then she goes, okay, wait a minute, we got this software cost, then you got this download cost, and you got this. So it goes in different line items. So when I tell you guys I need $20,000 for a server, but when it actually gets in here, we break it down by these pieces, it says software's this. And one of the really good things she's able to catch, if we download it, we don't have to pay sales tax. So I'd rather download it and copy it, and we save
I think
some
you're
money.
probably supposed to pay sales tax.
Well, they went to a class, because I asked that too. They went to a class and they showed me the documentation. If we download it, it's not a physical product. We paid for the product, but we didn't have to pay the tax. Now, that'd probably be a real good question.
I might
Cheryl
talk to the
want.
county attorney about that at some point. But let me ask you though, what other than labor, when you did that system, what did you have to pay for any hard costs? Did you pay for the cabling, or did Ron Wood pay for it all?
Okay, so when you put it in my budget, I didn't know it was Ron's at the first time. What I do is just look at that, and I fly with buying the purchase of items. But we already had some cable that we purchased, IT.
Okay.
So I purchased cables and miscellaneous little parts and pieces out of that money that you gave us to make all of it work. So buying a camera, for example, let's look at this one up here. If it has audio in it, that's a different component. If it has a lens, for example, for PTZ, which is pan, tilt, and zoom, so I want to zoom into you, it has a different camera interface, and you have to configure all those things up and put them together. Now, these are a little different cameras.
Well, these were here, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm just pointing to them as an example.
Okay.
So we put these cameras up out here. We have to also configure them and focus them. So when they get in, it's a multiple number of people that's going to have to work. So we get the camera up here, and I'm trying to focus it, and somebody else is looking at the screen that you all see out here so we can get it clear. And then we have to hook it in with the computer systems that are out here. I provided a computer for them to be able to have a new computer that should last us 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
So it's a joint effort in some of these cases. I think, too, it has been traditional that some of these things have been done that way. My predecessor did it this way, and that's kind of the way the county's done.
Okay. So are you guys responsible for our new signs about our monitoring in the kitchen?
I have not put those up. I don't have a clue. I did not put anything up there.
Okay.
So
Did you all install the system?
we installed a lot of the systems in here, yes.
Okay. Is there a new system in the kitchen?
That's not in our system, no.
Is there in somebody else's system?
I believe that there is something in there. I don't,
You didn't install it?
no, I did not.
That's kind of mysterious. Who did?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
No.
Mr. Butler, do you know?
I assumed that John did. I assumed that John did. I didn't know that. Possibly Ron did, but I assumed that they would have been installed by IT.
But they weren't?
But, no, I did not install them.
You're
I'd
talking
have to
cameras.
ask. Huh?
The cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not install those.
We don't know who did?
I'm assuming if it didn't come from IT, that it came from buildings and ground. Normally, I would have thought that the IT would install them, but did you install them?
I had them installed because there was things missing.
Well, does it go to the sheriff's feed out there?
I don't believe so. It's not in that system that these guys could look at, because I know what's in this system here.
Huh. Who monitors it then? Do you know? Do you all monitor it?
I think the judge just said something. I'm not sure. What did you say, Judge?
I said I had them installed because there was things missing. That way, if anything should happen and something turns up, we can always pull the films down and we can see what's going on.
Well, do we know whose budget it came out of?
I think I probably had it taken out of John's.
Okay.
Ron?
You did install them. You just didn't know it.
I may have and didn't know it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, Mr. Butler, can you tell us who could answer questions about that? Because that's kind of curious.
Well, I think Ron can answer a lot of questions about it. He installed them. Yeah. She was asking who could answer questions about the cameras that have been installed back in here. And I said I assumed that you could, since John didn't have anything to do with it.
We got the signs up. We talked about the signs.
This is part of the budget. This is not part of the budget, and it's, John?
Well, I'm trying to figure out where it's come from. I'm trying to figure out if it's in this budget somewhere.
Point of order's been raised.
And it's getting late. People are tired.
Judge, it's upon you to rule.
I think we need to move forward.
So you're taking the floor away from me?
Yes.
Well, Judge, may I?
Yes, please.
It's not necessarily taking the floor away from Justice Madison, but closing down that particular line of inquiry.
line of questioning. So you can move
Well,
forward on
Then I
John's
would
budget.
just ask that at some point you report to us on that issue, and then I'll yield the floor.
I'll be glad to find out all the information. I've got other people. J.P. Cochran?
Thank you, Judge. John, the internet connection, you mentioned that it's going up in the next month. This November. Does your line 3023 indicate that amount?
That would cover that amount.
Okay, that will
Yes.
cover that increase. Okay. Well, I would move to pass Budget 0115 with a amended 1009 line item from 49,320 down to 39,456.
Second the motion. So did everyone get that? Okay. So we're making, say that again, J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. I'm moving to pass the Budget 0115 with the amendment on line 1009, reducing 49,320 down to 39,456. These are the numbers Cheryl's recalculated for us.
And that's what you asked her to
Yes.
calculate for
Yes.
you? Okay. Okay, I have a motion and a second. So now, and then I've got J.P. Madison. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I consider it a serious issue that somebody has installed video, audio cameras in a private break room here. I saw the sign and looked for cameras and assumed it was a joke or just a scare tactic. I will be voting against this budget because we don't know who did that.
I am in charge of the buildings, and I have asked those cameras and the audio to be put up for reasons that I need to go up there. I am in charge of every building in this county.
Is every part
Judge,
of
there's
this
been a
county?
point of order raised, and
Thank you, that's all I have. I'll be voting against this budget. We need to know where those cameras and videos came from and out of which budget.
Okay. J.P. Lloyd.
Thank you. Back to the line item 3023, the internet connection, and because it's 50,000 more. You pay for everybody's internet connection? Is that correct?
John.
John, on line item 3023, you want 50,000 more for internet connection, and are you telling us you pay for everybody's internet connection?
That's correct, except for what Eva just talked about earlier.
Okay. And unless my figures are wrong, I went back and looked at everybody's internet connection, what they're charging us, and it came to $86,476.
What are you looking at? I'm sorry.
I'm looking at just line item 3023 on everybody's budget, and I totaled it up, and I came to $86,476.
And I don't understand how that reflects to mine. I apologize.
Well, I mean, because you said you're paying for everybody's internet
If somebody's
connection.
got internet, it should only be the collector and the assessor.
Well,
Now, if the sheriff's got something, sheriff is not part of our system in that sense. They still enjoy the internet, but they have their own phone system separately.
okay, the sheriff was 22, so we could take 22 off of that. That would put it down to 64,000. I'm concerned that you're asking for 50,000, but all these budgets are asking for internet connection also.
I have no idea why they are. I don't.
Seems like we went through this last year.
Really? And what did we?
I don't recall, but I remember there being this
It is
issue.
all supposed to be coming out of this. If somebody has a different internet connection, there may be a potential need for it in some places.
To the
But I don't
tune,
know
though,
what
of
that-
86,000? That's a lot of money.
You may have to ask them.
I know the fire alarms and I think the alarms in the elevators.
Yeah, the fire alarms,
Some of
elevators are all paid by building grounds.
And the sheriff's got some in there, so.
But I don't think it'd be 86.
Okay, I mean, and I could be totally wrong. I'm not saying I'm a pro on all this, but when I went through everybody's 3023
Yeah.
and I circled their number and I put it in my phone, it came out to $86,476.
That'd be great for you to ask them. If I had an answer, I'd give it to you.
We could do some research on that.
Okay,
let's do
okay.
some research on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Because if they have it in there, it's not supposed to be, then it needs to be removed.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. Now, am I to understand that if we pass this budget as Rick has proposed, that this still includes the price of 2 new employees?
No.
No.
Okay.
There, you should have the 10-8-25, which does not have that on there.
Page 101.
What's your total? 138?
Yep.
188?
You may be like ours, you can get the revision.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Judge. Just kind of a clarification back to the internet thing, because I had done what J.P. Lloyd had done and gone back, and there are several line items. Some are very small, but then there are other in the tens of thousands for that line item. Are there any, this is to help for, I guess, for future clarification from those departments, are there any internet connections that IT doesn't provide or monitor or didn't install or whatever? Is there any possibility that someone has installed or maintains their own internet connections that have nothing to do with
There could be
IT?
that possibility, but most of those counts should be between $40 and $80 a piece. So for example, like your home account, you can call it Cox. If you have the permission to put it in the building, then they can do it. They could potentially do that. I'm not aware of anyone doing that at the moment.
Like the tax collector has 34,500.
And the tax collector would be good because he's got a circuit to Lincoln and Springdale, so that would be accurate.
Okay. The assessor, of course, has a large number there as
Right,
well.
same
But
thing.
then all the circuit clerks, or courts, excuse me, and there's several other line items that all adds up. So that's why I was just
You
wondering.
said circuit courts?
I believe it was circuit court. It seemed like all of them had a small charge. It's not huge,
They
but
did.
Now,
we're talking a couple $1,000s.
The county clerk has their own account on something too.
I think to my
probably.
count, there was probably 10 to 12, maybe roughly. We could go
You know,
back
guys,
and add them up.
I'd be
I mean,
glad to
it's-
check this out. I just don't have the answer to who, where, what. But I can find out.
I just think it would be helpful for us to know.
Oh, yeah.
If you think you're paying for all the internet except a couple of noted exceptions, then I think there's probably.
If we are, we need to take and address that. If we think we're paying for it and we're not, and somebody else is doing something else, we need to account for that.
Right. Or we may find out that there's just duplicate charges, but the internet's actually big.
not.
Whatever we find, either way is just. I think it'd be good to clear that up so we at least know what
I
the
agree with
actual
you.
charges are, and that if there are any additional.
And we'll get that out. And if I may, because Ms. Lloyd brought this in, if you don't mind, when we get that statistics together, I can email it to all of you. You can just have that information, and we can, for future budgets, you may be able to look at that.
Okay.
And by future, meaning the ones that follow us.
We'll research that to you, and everybody will get the information.
But thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second, do we not? Carly, would you call the roll?
Sharon Lloyd,
Yes, if we get that internet connection.
It'll be checked.
Tom Lundstrom,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Rick Cochran,
Yes.
Robert Dennis,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison,
It passed.
9 to 5.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you, ma'am.
Renee? Oh, does she? He's a good guy, too.
Well, no, the revised revision is what you're looking for? Yes, Julie. She lent you her own. Oh, okay. Right? You can have it back.
Oh, I'm sorry, 105 and 106. Renee, you ready for questions?
Sure. My budget is decreased about $15,000.
Pull your mic pull it around to you. Thank you.
My budget is decreased about $15,000. I've moved some line items, but other than that, that is all I have.
J.P. Madison.
I would move to pass this budget.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Judge.
J.P. Cochran?
Thank you, Judge. This year, I think we've had grants presented to us that we've pushed through well in excess of $2 million. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
If we were to outside hire a grants administration process, we would pay 10 to 15% of that, which would be $250,000, which is twice this budget. That's a good investment in ours. And thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Carly, would you call the roll?
Yes. Sorry. Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman, Rick Cochran, Robert Dennis, Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you had to stay so long. Any citizens' comments?
I have a citizen's comment. Now, before Renee leaves, she said she had 50 grant applications out. 50. I mean, that's a lot. Congratulations. I hope.
I just want to ask the JPs to make up something clear. On the county library budget, did they need to come back or not? Since they have their own library board that their budget's been through, and you guys looked at it. So.
We're going to make a motion and.
Could we
second
just
it
make
to
a motion to pass the library's budget right now?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What?
You really, you need to add that to the agenda, which is going to take 2 votes.
Okay.
You're going to have to move to suspend the rules to put it on the agenda now, 2/3, and then move to pass it.
I'll withdraw my motion, and then I make a motion that we suspend the rules to amend the agenda to add the library's budget.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now,
Okay, now I would like to make a motion to approve the library's budget.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.